Hey everyone, it's FLAK Fire. Today I'm going to do something a bit strange. Some would say unnecessary, while others would say it's borderline insane. I'm going to take a look back at the Battlefield 5 reveal trailer. Now, there are a number of reasons that I want to do this, but mainly I came across the trailer the other day and I was just struck by how wildly different it was to the game that Battlefield 5 turned out to be. If you're expecting a mindless hate train here, I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you on that. Instead, I want to dig into some interesting observations and changes that developers made along the way. Obviously, one of the first things to mention are the character models. After reveal, DICE emphasized that cosmetics in Battlefield 5 were supposed to be believable. Following blowback from the reveal, most of these would never make it into the game. You had a number of wacky cosmetics, from bizarre face paint to beards to that infamous prosthetic arm. DICE and EA seemed determined to sell the game on the promise of cosmetics and making your soldier look unique. It was even more ironic then that when the game actually arrived, cosmetic choices were arguably lean. It took over a year to get a selection of haircuts and even longer to get uniforms that were, well, uniform. Interestingly, the German soldier that falls down the stairs here actually evolved into the elite Wilhelm Tannstedt. At the time of the reveal, DICE hadn't made any announcements regarding elites, but even he saw some changes. Initially, he was named Wilhelm Franke. Developers made the decision to rename him after it was revealed that the character shared a name with a real-life World War II resistance fighter, and you can see here his eye patch also was originally on the other side of his face. As the soldier runs up the staircase, you can see a wall peppered with holes. Destruction in Battlefield 5 doesn't actually work on that small of a scale. Another soldier who would evolve into an elite can be seen spotted on the staircase. You can see the mustache there. This character would eventually become Norman Kingsley. At the top of the stairs, a German soldier is garroted and dragged into a room off-screen. Garrots were a gadget intended to be part of an archetype under the Recon class, and getting a kill with one would spot nearby enemies, similar to interrogations in Battlefield Hardline. Unfortunately, that gadget was cut and it never made it into the game. On the back of this soldier is a katana. This weapon wouldn't see action until the final expansion for Battlefield 5 in the Pacific. And instead of being a traditional melee weapon as one might expect, it appears as a gadget pickup on the Pacific maps. You might remember it was also added as an Easter egg on Devastation, hidden in the drop canister inside the cathedral. The reflections here on the cabinet glass are actually realistic if you have a PC with RTX enabled. I actually did a video on all of the cool RTX stuff in Battlefield 5, if you want to check that out in the video description. The seamless movement through the window and the roll when hitting the ground did make it into the game, the latter being one of the best kept secrets. Hitting the crouch button right before landing will activate the roll and will minimize or entirely eliminate fall damage as long as you aren't too high up. Likewise, you can also go prone on your back and drive tanks through buildings. We see other examples of the movement system throughout the trailer, like sliding and vaulting, and both of those are true to what's in the game. I always found this shot interesting. Vehicle customization was very prominent in the trailer, and it showed so much customization on the tank, and yet we wouldn't see it until over a year post-launch. In fact, it took so infamously long to add that it spawned self-deprecating jokes that wound up in-game as tank cosmetics. Here, I want to talk about the map itself. It's obviously supposed to be twisted steel, but the more you watch the trailer, the more you realize how significantly it changed by the time the game was released. This is probably shot on what would be the F objective in Conquest. It's the only place on the map where you have this white picket fence, and there are a couple of buildings that were probably the inspiration, though even those have changed significantly in both color and architecture. There's also a lot less clutter in the actual game itself, but I attribute that more to trailer magic. We do see a tank towing an anti-aircraft gun, which can be done in-game, but it is unfortunately rarely seen. You also ended up being able to tow some anti-tank guns as well. Interestingly, this is the only moment in the trailer where we actually hear music, and that is quite a departure from previous Battlefield trailers, and certainly from Battlefield 1's memorable use of the White Stripes' Seven Nation Army, or we heard Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart in Battlefield 2042's trailer. Traditionally, music has played a very big role in Battlefield trailers, and DICE decided not to do that with the Battlefield 5 reveal trailer, probably to its detriment. Perhaps the most noticeable different feature of the map in the trailer is the bridge. If you look closely, there's no way to access the bridge on one side. In the retail version of the map, each side has collapsed rather evenly, and that provides a ramp. Chunks of the bridge also don't fall away during combat, neither do large trucks for that matter, though I gotta admit it would certainly look cool if they did. I also want to draw attention to the vividness of the color in this trailer. I don't think the saturation was ever this intense in Battlefield 5, but it was certainly dulled by the distance haze which was implemented by developers in the months after launch. Crash landings for airplanes were also nixed. Apparently developers were working on this, with the idea being that you'd actually be able to crash your airplane and live under certain circumstances. Fans were promised more at EA Play in 2018, but obviously nothing ever materialized. Personally though, I never took this as anything more than just creative license with the trailer, so I wasn't one of the people disappointed. Vehicles falling off the bridge randomly certainly does happen on this map though. Looking at this MG42, it's interesting to see a foregrip. Occasionally this kind of stuff popped up as a field modification in real life, but it is nowhere to be seen in the release version of Battlefield 5. Instead of a true weapon modification system, DICE opted for a specialization system. Now, occasionally this does change the appearance of the weapon, but that's not the case with the MG42. The muzzle brake did make it into the game, however. And I also want to talk about the UI. There is so much chromatic aberration here. Even with an on in Battlefield 5, it is nowhere this intense. You can see just everything almost glows. You can also see the map and the scale of icons change dramatically since the reveal. I will say, to their credit, DICE gave players very deep UI customization options, which let you tweak a boatload of aspects to your liking. I definitely preferred the finalized UI to the one showcased in the trailer. I find it much easier to read all of that vital information. Seeing so many players here building fortifications warms my heart. There are plenty on Twisted Steel, and they can be very effective, especially the secret ones. You might not have noticed, but the way characters build fortifications in Battlefield 5 is contextual. It changes based on what they're building, so instead of just showing a generic hammer, if you are digging a trench, it shows a shovel. If you're building sandbags, it shows you actually building sandbags. That's pretty cool. And you can in fact toss pouches in Battlefield 5, be it ammo or health, depending on what you have equipped. It remains one of the best features of the game. However, DICE did significantly weaken the associated attrition system, which placed an emphasis on grabbing ammo and health at supply stations or relying on your teammates. I have always found this moment in the trailer particularly interesting. This soldier is carrying a Panzerschreck. It's a weapon that never made it into the game's multiplayer. In fact, it only appears once, and that's in the Last Tiger campaign, but that is it. While it was functional, developers eventually decided to leave it on the cutting floor as they felt it didn't offer anything unique in terms of gameplay. This view is where Objective D would be on Conquest. Obviously, there's a lot more cover in the final version of the map. In the distance, you can spot a Sturmtiger. This would end up being one of the special call-ins for the German forces. Still love tossing back grenades, and yep, you can still shoot them like this for a kill. Another interesting change happened with the V1 rocket. From the trailer, you can see a delay in detonation. At some point over the course of Battlefield 5's life cycle, that delay was scrapped, making it just a simple, large detonation. The knockback effect was reduced as well, though it still throws friendlies for a loop if you're close enough. Ironically, I've actually had the knockback save me once from being run over, so I'm not going to hate on it too much. The attempted melee kill here may seem a bit like a gimmick, but it is pretty representative of what happens in-game. There are something like half a dozen different ways to melee kill someone in Battlefield 5, and it largely depends on the direction and position of the victim. Of course, the last bit here is by far the most infamous part of the trailer. We have the melee kill with a chain cricket bat, which is actually in the game, by the way. You have to complete all of the activities in the Under No Flag single-player war story in order to unlock it. The line, "Hello, old friend," became a meme of its own, but it did actually wind up in the game. You'll occasionally hear it when a teammate spawns on you. Based on the reveal trailer, it probably shouldn't surprise you when I say that I feel like Battlefield 5 has been several different games over the course of its life. Significant gameplay changes were rolled out over time. Others impacted the art direction and the tone of the game. In retrospect, these are almost certainly symptoms of a game that needed more development time. Overall, though, I'd argue the game improved significantly since its reveal, and it still features some of the best movement and gameplay in the franchise. To cap things off, you might remember in response to the blowback over the trailer, then Chief Design Officer Patrick Soderlund infamously said, "If you don't like it, don't buy it." Well, now you don't have to. You can actually pick up Battlefield 5 for free on PC with an Amazon Prime subscription through the Prime Loot section on Twitch. I'll leave a link to that in the video description if you want to grab that code. While you're over there, make sure to follow me on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/FLAKFire. In the meantime, though, tell me your thoughts on the Battlefield 5 reveal trailer now that it's been a few years. Do you think the game aged well? How do you think it compares to the Battlefield 2042 reveal? Tell me down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If not, a dislike. Make sure to subscribe and tap the bell for the latest updates on Battlefield 2042. If you want to support the channel, keep your money, share this video. And as always, thanks for watching.